I'm going to talk today about 3 software quality metrics to build good apps. A software quality metric, or an SQM, is basically a key performance indicator or KPI that you use to measure your team and measure your app with. Now, these include things like code coverage, which are tests that are run. Tests have to be run because a developer may update code and you would expect the developer to have tested their code, but many times you have to do quality checks. You have to make sure that the app is operating as expected after pushing new code up. This is accomplished manually or through automated frameworks. Now, manually testing everything and QC checking everything by hand can be very intense. It's okay for like small scale stuff, but when you're doing continuous development and continuous integration, you end up needing functional and unit tests. Now, unit tests are looking down at the code very closely at whether or not it's throwing an error when something occurs. So if you push a change to the code and now errors are occurring during some process where that code would run, the unit test is going to pick up on that. Functional tests are a little bit different. This is more of emulating a user going to the app and using the aspects of the app. So building functional tests and building unit tests can be very time consuming. And we have to look at the percentage of the code that's been tested. This is an important code coverage metric, is what percentage of that code has actually been tested. We can also look at things like how frequently are we doing tests, and then how frequently are tests failing. So really important metrics there. Some tools we use for this include Jest, Selenium, the Visual Studio, Unit Testing Framework, JMeter, and many others. Now, security vulnerability density is the second metric I want to talk about briefly here. And this is going to be things like how many vulnerabilities are known in the code. This is oftentimes reported through the libraries that you're running, are dependencies your code uses, and then those libraries have security disclosures that are reported on them. Those disclosures become known vulnerabilities for you. And this comes down to the percentage of your code also that's impacted by those vulnerabilities is an important thing to measure. How frequently are new vulnerabilities discovered? So this can kind of tell you if you're using some libraries and dependencies that may have a lot of security holes. And also, are you automatically patching this stuff? So if you have a vulnerability disclosure that occurs, then do you have a process that's going to automatically push the latest version of the library to your app and then automatically be able to test if that push broke your app? That's why the unit testing stuff is so important. And the tools we use for this might include things like Dependabot. GitHub has really nice tools built into it for this. There's JTest, and then AppSonar and other big third-party tools that we can subscribe to. So the other one, the final point that I want to cover is developer efficiency. There's a couple of key metrics here, such as the MTTF and MTTR. Now, MTTF is mean time to failure. So that's how long it takes between a failure cycle. And that's going to help us determine if we have code that's breaking down a lot. Then we have the mean time to repair. This really comes down to how efficient our developers are at getting things fixed. So we may have an issue that's reported and then a period of time goes by and now that issue has been repaired. So the MTTR would relate to how long it took to get that repaired. Jira is a very popular tool for helping to kind of measure these kind of metrics, but any tool that works with an Agile and Scrum-based system is going to be a good fit typically. The DevOps philosophy, the Agile philosophy are real critical here. And if we implement those kinds of methodologies, then we are set up for success as much as we can be. So I hope you found this informative and learned a little bit about the SQMs.